Personality as you know it cannot be understood unless the true meaning of the anima and the animus is taken into consideration. The reincarnational pattern is, generally speaking, an open one, in that within it there is room for diversity. Each whole self has its own individual characteristic. It can live its lives as it sees fit within the guidelines. There may be a series of male or female existences unbroken. Such a choice has some drawbacks. There are, however, no rules dictating the sexual development in varying incarnations, except that experience with both sexes must be taken on, and the various characteristics developed. This does not mean that an equal number of male and female lives must be lived. Some, for example, find it far easier to develop in one sex or the other, and will need more opportunities for experience as the sex with which they experience difficulty. The animus and the anima become even more important in these instances when a series of one-sex lives are chosen. The original pattern of the animus and the anima comes from the whole self before reincarnations. The animus and the anima are born into the individual with the first physical life and serve as an inner pattern, reminding the personality of its basic unity. Here is another reason for the strong psychic charge behind these symbols and the godlike quality that they can transmit and project. The male yearns toward the anima because it represents to the deep unconscious those other characteristics of the whole self that, on the one hand, lie latent, and that, on the other hand, struggle for release. The tension between the two leads him to temper aggressiveness with creativity, or to use aggressiveness creatively. Now, there are deep correlations between these symbols and the struggle in which mankind is involved. Your consciousness as you know it, your particular present kind of consciousness, is a statement of awareness brought about by a particular kind of tension, a specific kind of focus arising from the true unconscious of the whole self. The true unconscious is not unconscious. Instead, it is so profoundly and unutterably conscious that it bubbles over. The life that you know is simply one of the many areas in which it is conscious. In each facet of its consciousness, literally tremendous power and balance must be maintained to hold aloft this particular consciousness experience from all others. Your reality exists in a particular area of activity in which aggressive qualities, thrusting outward characteristics, are supremely necessary to prevent a falling back into the infinite possibilities from which you have only lately emerged. Yet from this unconscious bed of possibilities you derive your strength, your creativity, and the fragile yet powerful kind of individual consciousness that is your own. The two-sex division was adopted, separating and balancing these most necessary but seemingly opposing tendencies. Only beginning consciousness needs these kinds of controls. The anima and the animus, therefore, are embedded deeply with their necessary complementary, but apparently opposed, tendencies, and they are highly important in maintaining the very nature of your human consciousness. There is also a natural tension, then, between the sexes that is based on far deeper causes than physical ones. The tension results from the nature of your consciousness that arises from the anima, but depends on its continuation upon the aggressiveness of the animus. I have to some extent explained the fascination that one has for the other as suiting from the inner knowledge of the whole self that strives to attain true identity as it struggles to combine and fulfill the seemingly opposite tendencies that are a part of it. At the end of the reincarnational cycle, the whole self is far more developed than it was before. It has realized and experienced itself in a dimension of reality unknown to it earlier, and in doing so has, of course, increased its being. It is not a matter, then, of a whole self splitting in half and then simply returning to itself. Now, there are many matters concerning the nature of conception that should be discussed here. Again, however, there is leeway and many variations. Usually, between lives, you choose ahead of time your children, and they choose you as parents. If you are to be born as a male, then the mother serves as a stimulus to activate the symbol of the anima in you, so that the pattern of your own female lives becomes a portion of your next existence. Your mother, if you have known her in the past, will find at your birth an upsurge of dreams involving other existences in which the two of you were together. These may not even be recorded consciously, but in many cases they are, and are then forgotten. Her own past male lives will help her relate to you as her son. In some cases, new mothers may feel highly aggressive and nervous. These feelings are sometimes due to the fact that the male son causes an activation of the animus in her, with a resulting charge of aggressive feelings. The atoms that compose the fetus have their own kind of consciousness. The volatile awareness consciousness that exists independently of matter, from matter, form matter according to their ability and degree. The fetus, therefore, has its own consciousness, the simple component consciousness made up of the atoms that compose it. This exists before any reincarnating personality enters it. The consciousness of matter is present in any matter, a fetus, a rock, a blade of grass, a nail. The reincarnating personality enters the new fetus according to its own inclinations, desires, and characteristics, with some built-in safeguards. However, there is no rule, then, saying that the reincarnating personality must take over the new form prepared for it, either at the point of conception, in the very earliest months of the fetus growth, or even at the point of birth. The process is gradual, individual, and determined by experience in other lives. It is particularly dependent upon emotional characteristics, not necessarily on the last incarnated self, but the emotional tensions present as a result of a group of past existences. Various methods of entry are adopted. If there is a strong relationship between the parents and the child-to-be, then the personality may enter at the point of conception, if he is extremely anxious to rejoin them. Even here, however, large portions of self-awareness continue to operate in the between-life dimension. In the beginning, the womb state under these conditions is a dreamlike one, with the personality still focused mainly in the between-life existence. Gradually, the situation reverses until it becomes more difficult to retain clear concentration in the between-life situation. In these circumstances, when the personality attaches itself at conception, there is almost without exception strong past life connections between parents and child, or there is an unceasing and almost obsessional desire to return to the earthly situation, either for a specific purpose or because the reincarnating personality is presently obsessed with earthly existence. This is not necessarily detrimental. The personality can simply realize that it takes two physical experience well, is presently earth-oriented, and finds earthly atmosphere a rich dimension for the growth of its own abilities. Some personalities are drawn to enter at conception as a result of seemingly less worthy motives, greed, for example, or an obsessional desire that is partially composed of unresolved problems. Other personalities, who never completely take to earthly existence, may hold off full entry for some time, and even then always remain at a certain distance from the body. On the other end of the scale, before death, the same applies, where some individuals remove their focus